It was in the early 1900s that the ideal body type for women started to shift away from round and plump towards being thin and slender, and one of the early proponents who started to reject the idea that being bigger is a sign of femininity was Sylvester Graham, a Presbyterian minister of the 1840s who began promoting a diet for women that consisted of very plain and abstinent foods such as crackers, vegetables, and water. He stated that, quote, spices, stimulants, and other overindulgences lead to illness, indigestion, and sexual excess, end quote. Men associated fatness with promiscuity, and in the 1897 book, The Female Offender, author Cesar Lombroso claimed that there was a connection between obesity and prostitution. He concluded in his detailed studies that obesity is directly linked to uncivilized behavior, and women who were slender had morals and weren't seen in mental institutions as much as larger women. He wrote, quote, this greater weight amongst prostitutes is confirmed by the notorious fact of the obesity of those who grow old in their vile trade and who gradually became positive monsters of adipose tissue, end quote. This was really the first time mainstream society started to care about their diets, and diets such as the Banting diet of the 1860s became widespread, and so did its notions of anti-fatness. The creator of this diet, William Banting, thought that corpulence was a physical disability and makes you seem lazy and like a sloth. And the cultural shift continued as corsets fizzled out of fashion, and corsets were a popular facet of the 1800s, and they weren't intended to make a woman appear thinner, but rather push fat into areas that were fashionable at the time. And so as corsets began to exit the scene, women didn't know what to do with their fat and were dissatisfied with their natural figures. And also around this time, dress sizes became a thing, and women were now more than ever aware of their sizes and could compare themselves to other women. With all of these things present, the body ideal for women completely flipped, and it was now all about being tiny, frail, and delicate. Different forms of media in the 1920s, such as fashion, art, and advertising, promoted the weak and slender woman. Advertisements at this time really took advantage of this new insecurity that women had to sell weight loss pills and market them as good for you. The demand for these rapid weight loss pills was obviously very high, but unfortunately many of these pills contained harmful substances like amphetamines, thyroid extract, or laxatives, which can have detrimental impacts on the body. Amphetamines such as dinethylphenol, DNP, were very commonly used pill. These pills acted as stimulants, increasing metabolism and suppressing appetite, which sounds great, but the only thing is they also raise your body temperature and heart rate to dangerous levels, leading to complications such as heart failure, heat stroke, and even death, which is not so great. A study by the National Institute of Health has shown that from 1910 to 1920, there have been over 35 reported DNP-related deaths, but that's only DNP, and there have definitely been thousands of deaths related to weight loss pills over the decades. The lack of regulation and also oversight of the era led these pills to be kept on the market for a while before being removed due to numerous deaths. The rise of starvation diets also came in response to these unattainable expectations. Some of these diets include the cigarette diet, which includes smoking a pack of cigarettes a day to suppress your appetite. When this diet was introduced, it came with the tagline, "Reach for lucky instead of a sweet." The grapefruit diet of the 1930s consisted of eating a grapefruit before each meal to stimulate weight loss. And counting calories was also a part of daily life at the time for women. Around the 60s, fashion experienced a significant transformation. Fashion designers, photographers, and models became cultural icons, and their work gained substantial media attention. Thin models such as Twiggy, Jean Shrimpton, and Eddie Sedgwick showcase a new aesthetic of waif and androgynous body figures. Twiggy, born Leslie Hornby, as her name suggests, was a very thin girl who became known for her figure. She dominated the fashion industry for a while and was on the cover of various magazines. Her unique look was characterized by her slender figure, boyish haircut, and her big eyes. She quickly became the it girl of the 60s. Her impact went beyond setting a trend, as she played a pivotal role in setting a new body ideal for women. In an interview with The Observer in 1966, Twiggy said, "I don't think I'm really that skinny. I've always been small, and I was skinny when I started modeling, and I think it's just that I'm built that way. I don't diet, I just eat normally." End quote. At the time she said this, she was very young, so she didn't quite understand the profound effect that this had on people. Her nonchalant attitude about her figure can unintentionally make people without a similar figure feel lazy, lacking discipline, or doing something wrong, when in reality there is no right body type, and everyone's biology and genetics come into play when influencing body composition. This generated self-esteem issues of women who do not fit the ideal. In Twiggy's rise to stardom, media and popular culture started to promote diets and dieting tips that aim to help women achieve that similar ultra-thin physique. The 60s was the rise of so-called miracle diets, many of which reflected the era's inadequate understanding of nutrition and body health. And some of these diets were the cabbage soup diet, which was eating a very low-calorie yet filling cabbage soup for every meal of the week, and that promised rapid weight loss. The sleeping beauty diet, which involved being sedated to reduce how much food you eat, and low-fat diets, which often led to deficiencies. So, fast forwarding a little bit, new body standards are still being set by the dieting industry. The diet and weight loss industry was valued at a staggering $76 billion in 2022 in the United States alone, and these are some of the extremely controversial practices that are being undertaken within the industry today. So first we have unrealistic body standards. Social media platforms are full of before and after photos that showcase extreme weight loss and state that anyone can achieve these results. Selective portrayal means that the media tends to portray only a narrow range of body types which align with the current beauty standards. The changing nature of these standards shows how arbitrary they are. They're not rooted in any objective reality or biological advantage, but are a subject of societal trends and norms. The shifting nature of body ideals means that the perfect body is an unreachable goal. Just as one begins to adjust as a standard, the trend shifts and a new body ideal emerges. An example of this is how in the early 90s and 2000s, emphasized the heroin chic aesthetic, which was a very thin, androgynous, and almost emaciated look, which then quickly transitioned to the thick trend of the 2010s, and it was all about having a slim waist and a big butt, which was popularized by the Kardashians, Beyonce, and Jennifer Lopez. Now it's transitioning back to the super thin Tumblr 2014 aesthetic, which is being popularized through social media, and also popular celebrities who are seen losing drastic amounts of weight in short periods of time, such as Kim Kardashian, who stated that she lost 16 pounds in 2 weeks for the 2022 Met Gala. So I think that was one of the really big turning points for this new trend of being super thin. So typically, the body types portrayed in the media are only achieved by a minority of women. As Dr. Philippa Diedrich states, quote, "Only about 5% of women naturally possess the body type often portrayed in the media," end quote. And even though it's only 5%, the commonality of these body types in the media makes women feel as though they are the only exception and that there is something wrong with their body. But if body types on social media were portrayed in the relation to the percentage of people who have that body type, there would be a lot less comparison and feeling that there's something wrong with you, because there are a lot of people out there with the same body type as you who feel the same way. Another factor exacerbating the situation is the use of photo editing and body alteration apps, which have become even more prevalent with the rise of advanced photoshopping technology that can even alter videos. Victoria Garrick, a body-positive TikTok influencer, posted a video showing how easy it is to Photoshop a video using a filter. In the first half of the video, she is seen looking thin and toned, which is typically what is seen in popular TikTok videos of female bodies. And in the second half, she removes the filter to reveal her natural body, which is a lot more relatable to the people watching. One user commented, quote, "You don't understand how much this helps me. It makes me realize how normal my body is," end quote. Another commented, "Thank you. I immediately got insecure, and the second bar made me smile," end quote. A lot of people have noticed that big social media figures such as Khloe Kardashian are seen using these video editing apps. In a video Khloe Kardashian posted in April, her waist was seen spasming as she moved around, which is a clear indication of alteration. These deeply altered images of body types, elongated legs, and defined muscles are not just unrealistic, but they're often anatomically impossible, which causes a lot of women's body image issues, and it's a reminder that these bodies we aspire to have don't actually exist in the human form. Another thing we see a lot these days are pro-eating disorder niches on social media, which use hashtags such as hashtag pro-ana, which means pro-anorexia, and hashtag pro-mia, which means pro-bulimia. And they post things such as thinspiration, also known as thinspo images, of severely emaciated bodies or body parts, tips and tricks for how to lose weight in a rapid period of time, how to hide eating disorder behaviors from your family, and messages that romanticize eating disorders as a lifestyle rather than a mental health condition. On the other hand, these spaces can also provide a sense of community and understanding amongst users who feel misunderstood because of their eating disorders, but the issue with this is that these spaces are widely accessible, and social media platforms such as Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram have algorithms that suggest posts to users, and that does include vulnerable people, also young people who can easily be influenced by this harmful messaging. The issue of eating disorders in Canada has been a topic of serious concern for decades, but it's only been increasing since the pandemic. A study from 6 pediatric care facilities across Canada published in the Journal of American Medical Association found a 60% increase in eating disorders, also known as EDs, among children and youth compared to pre-pandemic levels. The Canadian Institute for Health Information revealed that hospitalizations for young women with eating disorders have seen a rise of 60% since March 2020. So the reasoning for this is that people spent a lot more time at home doing nothing because gyms and other sport facilities were closed, which inevitably led to people gaining a bit of weight. And when gaining a bit of weight is paired with constant scrolling through social media, it is very easy for people to get sucked into a rabbit hole of body comparison, which may lead to a goal of weight loss, which can spiral into an unhealthy obsession. Dr. Blake Woodside, a professor at the University of Toronto's Psychiatry Department, underlines the severity of EDs. Quote, "This kills people dead. This is not trivial," end quote. She says, EDs have the highest mortality rate of any mental illness, and suicide is the second leading cause of death for people with anorexia. Canadian Eating Disorder Strategy reads, quote, "For females aged 15 to 24 years old, the mortality rate of anorexia is 12 times higher than that of all other causes of death combined," end quote. Although I've mentioned a lot about how social media impacts mental stability, it is not the sole cause of EDs. Eating disorders can also stem from a combination of environmental and hereditary factors. A study published in 2001 said that in identical twins, if one is diagnosed with anorexia, the other has a 74% chance of also having an ED. Ari Maharaj, an education coordinator for the National Eating Disorder Center, suggests that, quote, "genetics loads the gun and environment pulls the trigger." So people are genetically at risk because of their genetic heritage, and then specific environmental things have to activate their genetic liability, end quote. So in other words, some people are more vulnerable to developing an eating disorder, and some of these things that ignite the fire can be social media messaging and also comments from loved ones about weight or eating habits, which are detrimental to people who are already liable. So what are some of the ways we can combat the effects of the dieting industry? So as we know, a very common New Year's resolution is based around weight loss, and a big reason for that is diet culture, as we've discussed. Nadia Craddock, a body image researcher, suggests that diet culture is a set of social expectations, quote, "telling us that there's one way to be and one way to look and one way to eat, and that we are a better person or a more worthy person if our bodies are a certain way," end quote. But it's unsustainable to constantly think that you aren't good enough, and we should all try to start diverging from this harmful mindset, and here are some of the ways we can do that. So first of all, it is essential to understand that the notion of BMI, which is body mass index, is unreliable. Completely unreliable. It originated in the 19th century, invented by Adolphe Quetelet The BMI was designed to look at weight distribution across populations, primarily focusing on the narrow demographic of white male soldiers from Scotland and France. So it was not made to assess health, which is why it is not an effective tool considering the diverse range of race, age, and gender profiles that exist. Yet it still remains the most common measure of health for all genders and body types. Sabrina Strings, author of Fearing the Black Body, The Racial Origins of Fat Phobia, says that BMI tries to reinforce that fatness leads to illness, but correlation is not causation, and she says that you can be healthy at any size if you have the means to do so. Access to, quote, access to fruits and vegetables, access to lean proteins, living in walkable neighborhoods, all of these things are so important to our health outcomes, and yet, instead of looking at these factors, people want to focus just on the weight, end quote, she says. It is important to note that if your doctor gives you a recommendation to lose weight, you have the right to question them and ask what advice they might give to someone at a different BMI. Another thing we need to start doing is being careful with our words. A lot of people like to compliment others based on weight. We often hear, quote, "You look so good. Did you lose weight?" End quote. Which may sound like a good thing, but it's just another reinforcement of the idea that being thin is equated to looking better. Commenting on people's bodies should just be avoided at all costs, even if you think you're doing something good, because you never know what someone's going through. If you want to compliment someone, try to compliment things that a person has done intentionally, such as their accomplishments, skills, or values. Another option would be to say nothing at all. Virtue Tovar, a public speaker who focuses on ending weight-based discrimination, says that, quote, "You don't have to learn to talk about bodies in an amazing positive way. Instead, you could just opt out of body talk altogether, and that applies how people talk to you as well," end quote. Tovar outlines how younger people shouldn't be afraid to tell older generations how they don't want to be talked about in a certain way and should use humor to settle down diet talk. So finally, what we can do is we can rekindle our natural relationship with food through intuitive eating, which is proven beneficial. In the theater of life, diet culture is its most important drama. It turns the simple act of eating, something we should do intuitively and without a second thought, into a high-stakes thriller, as Tovar describes. When we tune out the noise of diet culture, food becomes just food, a source of nourishment and pleasure rather than a source of guilt, shame, or regret. Ayana Habter-Miriam, a registered dietitian, explains that intuitive eating teaches us to trust our bodies again. Quote, "We are naturally equipped with the knowledge of how and when to eat," end quote, she says. Intuitive eating is about connecting with our body's natural needs and wants instead of listening to external rules imposed by diet culture. It is important to note that intuitive eating isn't a luxury that everyone can afford. However, if you are fortunate enough to have access to food, intuitive eating begins by breaking free from food rules set by diet culture, listening to your hunger cues, and giving yourself unconditional permission to eat. This may seem like it will lead to overeating, but Habter-Miriam assures that our bodies will eventually find balance. When you neglect your natural hunger cues, it will lead to constantly thinking about food and when your next mealtime is, but honoring your hunger will allow you to make peace with food, which takes food off of a pedestal and turns it into just another part of the day. This all seems very simple, but it can be particularly difficult for those with a history of disordered eating, but today there are many resources to combat eating disorders, some of which are included in the description box of this video, which will help guide you through your intuitive eating journey.